I see people coming from Bangladesh, from DRC, all over the world. That's great. Should be quite late already in Bangladesh. I don't know what time is it in Bangladesh.
It is 5 o'clock.
Ah, 5 o'clock. Okay. So manageable.
Hi, Nicholas. Hi, Nicholas.
Hi. Hi, yeah. 34 participants. Okay. What do you think, Anna? Should we get started, or do we give colleagues a few more minutes to join? I think yesterday we had quite a big attendance, more than 115 participants. So I would expect that today we don't have much less. So maybe we can give more chance for colleagues to join. Okay, 1 more minute and then we'll get started. All right, let's get started. About 60 participants. So just to say a warm welcome to everyone, wherever you are. I'm really pleased and honored to be the co-chair of the day 3 of the 2021 annual GNC meeting. So together with Anna, the Deputy Global Nutrition Cluster Coordinator, we're going to bring you through today's discussion around the GNC roadmap and GNC strategy. We are really now in the final straight of this annual meeting, and I just want to take this opportunity to thank the organizers for the very good preparatory work, and I think it looks like this annual meeting will be a very fruitful and successful one. So I just wanted to say thank you for the huge amount of work and time spent in the preparation of this GNC annual meeting. So without any further delay, maybe we can move to the presentation of today's agenda. So we will start today with a brief summary of what happened yesterday by the co-chair of yesterday's discussion, so Alex and Megan. And then Anna will present us the 2022-2025 GNC vision, mission, goal, and strategic pillars. And after that, and during that session, we really encourage you to ask any question, post any question on the chat, and we do our best to provide you with some answer to your question. And then we will rejoin our breakout rooms to continue the discussion on the solutions, the initiatives to address the challenges that we have that you have identified in your respective group work. and we will give you more instruction on how to proceed. The discussion that happened yesterday and the day before were very fruitful, and we have come up with more than 300, I think, proposed solution and initiative, and we may need to narrow them a little bit down and to prioritize the one that we want to put forward and the one that we would like the GNC to implement for the next 4 years. After that, we'll have a short break where we'll be given the opportunity to better know each other. And we will come back in plenary to for each of the group to report on the final product. So what are the key actions that the GNC would implement for the next 4 years into the different sector of the roadmap. And we will close the meeting by an evaluation and the closing remark by the Global Nutrition Cluster Coordinator, Mr. Fedele, and Mr. Fontaine, the Director of UNICEF Emergency Division. So now I would like to invite Alex or Megan to present us with the summary of the proposed roadmap for the sector. Alex,
Thanks,
Megan.
Nico. Yep, thank you. Next slide, please. Okay, I just have a very short recap of yesterday, just to refresh the process that we undertook. So we started yesterday with presentations from each group on the main challenges that we discussed on day 1. We did have a change to the number of groups, so we moved from 10 to 9 groups, and the financing group was dissolved just for the purpose of these few days, but this group will be taken up by the SAG. We then had 1 hour to brainstorm solutions together, which we then followed with a small game, and we saw some special skills by Grace, by Nico, and by Dina. We then came back and we had presentations on solutions. So for obvious reasons, I'm not going to go and summarize those 300 solutions. This is more just to refresh on what happened yesterday and before we move into today's proceedings. Obviously we had a lot to say yesterday, so we did go a little bit over time, so we did miss the opportunity to evaluate the day. So I would like to take that opportunity now to show you a poll, very similar to day 1. If you could just take 1 minute to answer those 3 questions. And when we have finished that poll, we'll be moving into Anna's session for today. If there's any questions or comments on yesterday, please pop them in the chat. Great. Thanks, everyone.
Yes, and suggestions that only those people who attended yesterday will vote and the rest who did not, don't. So we have 40% voted. Maybe I'll keep for 10 more seconds and I will close in 10 seconds and then I'll show you the results, which so far are very similar to what we had for the first day. Okay, so we have 45 people voted, which is more than half, and I assume the rest were not there maybe throughout the day. So I am sharing the result, which you should be able to see now. Most of the people, 73% in fact, gave the meeting 5 stars with a little bit of distribution, sorry, 4 stars with a little bit of distribution around. Which topics of the aspects of day 2 did you find the most interesting or useful? Mostly the group work as expected, although many 20% did find plenary presentation also more interesting, I assume, because they saw the feedback of the work of other group. And then do you feel that today's meeting met its goals? Again, about 96% people think that it did meet the goal.
All right, thank you very much, Anna. Thank you, Megan and Alex, for the brief recap of yesterday's discussion and output. And so now, Anna, it's up to you to present us about the 2022-2025 GNC vision, mission, goal, and strategic pillar. Over to you.
Thank you very much. And before I start, just to recap that on the day one, I did give a presentation on the whole process of the strategy and how we actually reached this stage, which we are now. So I'm not going to repeat it. For those who are interested and who didn't attend the meeting, please do go to the website, to the dedicated GNC Annual Meeting page and check it there. So I will just start presenting what we have now. Basically, as Nicolas said, GNC vision, mission, goal, and strategic objectives as we agreed through the different surveys. So current formulation of the GNC vision, which is something which is very realistic to achieve in 4 years, is, we hope, is that by the end of 2025, the nutritional status of the most vulnerable people is protected in countries with ongoing or at risk of situations of fragility. The GNC goal is very similar to this, but a little bit more concrete, that in 4 years, all countries with ongoing or at risk of situation of fragility will benefit from regular support from the GNC collective to develop or strengthen national and subnational technical and coordination capacity for nutrition. When I will talk later about the GNC strategic objectives, it would be much clearer what we mean by this. And then GNC mission statement, which is what our added value is that GNC exists to collectively strengthen the nutrition technical and coordination capacities in countries based on the needs of affected populations in order to forecast nutrition situations and prepare for, respond to, and recover from situations of fragility, thereby contributing to global efforts to prevent and treat malnutrition in all its forms. So I'll just summarize in a few statements what are the key differences from the current strategy from our previous 5-year strategy. So first of all, before we cover only coordination mandate, and now with GNC Technical Alliance launch, we do cover both coordination and program components of nutrition and emergency. So we have more holistic approach to the whole strategy. Now, the second change is that now we focus on both cluster and sectoral coordination mechanisms, something that we significantly expanded last year with the COVID response, where we not only focused on the traditional officially activated clusters, but also on different sectors. The approach that seems to be working well and was appreciated, so we are further expanding it, and we are no longer talking about humanitarian situations, but rather situations of fragility, which is a much wider concept. And the next and the last major change compared to the previous strategy is that we now support coordination platform, authorities, governments, not only for response to humanitarian crisis, but actually for preparedness and also recovery through the whole cycle of HDN. Now, in terms of the strategic objectives, we have developed together with you 3 key strategic objectives. The first one is focusing on people, and it's phrased this as to support countries, the nutrition cluster lead agency, and nutrition partners at subnational, national, regional, and global levels to ensure that they are adequately staffed and skilled to prepare for, respond to, and recover from situations of fragility. So again, we are talking here about expansion from coordination to a holistic approach for NIE, and we recognize that the GNC does have a direct role in capacity building and capacity development, but also indirect role in ensuring that appropriate human resources are actually hired in the country. The second strategic objective is about operational and technical support, and it says to ensure that nutrition-related decisions and operational support at all levels are guided by timely, sound technical advice while documenting experiences and generating new evidence. So as you see, now we do have more emphasis on documenting experience and generating new evidence. One of the groups that was working on this over the last 2 days suggested that it would be a separate strategic objective. That's something that we can discuss with the SAG later and see if we need to separate this into two. But for now, the discussion was that it would be one objective. So our support is can be direct support, for example, to priority countries through help desks, through deployments, through technical support team, but also it can be indirect, for example, by producing guidance that is applicable for different contexts, not necessarily even directly for clusters or emergencies, but for wider contexts. And again, as you see, we are moving from coordination to a holistic NAE approach. And the third objective was formulated around building and enabling environment, which is kind of separated into two pieces. The first one is to be a driver of change for improved collaboration, partnership, and innovation of nutrition to prepare for, respond to, and recover from situations of fragility at all levels. And then the second is to be a driver of a change for creating a supportive financial and policy environment, both internal and external, for strengthened technical and coordination capacity for nutrition in situations of fragility. So in terms of this third strategic objectives, you see that we now aim to strengthen again the generation and dissemination of knowledge and results of nutrition and emergency coordination and programming. We're also committing to develop and implement advocacy and communication strategy, and the formulation is much more concrete of what we want to achieve with it rather than in our previous strategy. And we are also stating something very new to the strategy, which we didn't focus on before, is that we do have a key role in scaling up globally initiatives that are piloted or initiated at national level or by individual partners, something that we have already started over the last few years, but now we want to ensure that we have a stronger role to play in it for the benefit of the collective. So this was based on all your feedback. I hope it adequately reflects your feedback, but again, based on the discussions during this meeting, and once we have key initiatives and key indicators developed, we will revisit this again and see if something needs to be adjusted. If you do have any comments on this, we wouldn't have time to discuss it now, but please do put your comments in the chat so we can revisit them later. And I want to finish my presentation with the key challenges for all the three strategic objectives. Again, this is based on all the consultations, evaluations, and everything which we have done in the preparation for the meeting. And I thought it's very important to highlight them here again, but also expand a little bit more on the key challenges, because it might help you today in your group work in prioritizing what is the most important to do for the nutrition and emergency roadmap, and also to see what can be the role of the GNC in it. So in terms of the strategic objective one regarding people, the key challenges are, first of all, greater institutional support by UNICEF as cluster lead agency for the human resources in nutrition and emergency and coordination, uneven distribution of NIE skills among INGO, LNGO countries' technical areas, high turnover of staff, and no or limited capacity mapping and development plans at country level, scaling up capacity development in the context of localization, expansion of partnership to different and non-traditional partnership, and building on locally available resources. And as you see, most of it has already come up in the discussion in the related group works discussion. Now, for the second strategic objectives on the operational and technical support, the key challenges identified so far for the GNC were, first of all, ensuring technical support is provided to countries systematically rather than on ad hoc basis, filling gaps in operational guidance, no systematic analysis and mapping of countries' support needs on nutrition in emergencies, and also on coordination and IM, also less so, and requests for support initiated on an ad hoc basis, limited capacity in preparedness and contingency planning, and limited focus on evidence generation, knowledge management, and communication at all levels. So for the third strategic objective on enabling environment, again, the key challenge is advocacy on behalf of the cluster sector, securing longer term and predictable funding for clusters work, strengthening the humanitarian development nexus, balancing short-term responses with longer-term solutions, intersectoral coordination, stronger knowledge generation and management, generating better evidence for impact, and localization and strengthening subnational response and coordination. As you see, all these challenges is also something that came up through the group work. And I do hope that with the proposed solution, with prioritization of the solutions, we would be able to actually develop a GNC strategy for the next 4 years that addresses most of them and maybe even all of these identified key challenges. Over.
Thank you very much, Anna, for this very clear presentation on the vision, mission, and the goal and strategic pillar of the GNC for the coming years. And I really believe that should help the group work in finalizing the work that has been already done so far in trying to identify what are the priority solutions to address some of these challenges. So now it will be time to rejoin our the same group as you have attended for the previous 2 days, and work on these solutions, and really invite you, encourage you to limit the number of solutions per challenge. We need to come with the most critical one and the most actionable one, and we would not want to end up with a wish list, but really actionable solutions that you think the GNC needs to implement, and so 1 or 2 maximum per challenge would be a good deal. So now it's time to join our breakout room. Shabib or Anna. So here you have the list. Okay, so you can.
Nicolas, maybe
Yes.
just highlight that once you are back in 60 minutes, we are going to break. But as Nicolas said, we want to ensure that you have time to socialize because your previous 2 breaks were very tough. So once you are back in groups, we will randomly allocate you to smaller groups where if you want to join, you can join and have discussions with people whom you randomly meet. Or if you don't want to join, you don't have to join and you can just go and take a break and come back in 10 minutes. Thanks.
Very good.
So please do join the group. For those who for some reason missed our previous group works, scroll down the list, select the group which you want to join out of the list of 10 groups and click on join. If you are not able to join because you have an old version of Zoom, please type a message on chat saying your name and which group you want to join, and our team will assign you to that group. Thanks.
All right, so speak to you in an hour.
Anna, can I be sent back to group 8, please?
Well, you have like 30 seconds left, and I cannot because the rooms are closed. They're just taking time to come back.
Anna, Stefano, sorry, have we finalized when Manuel is coming on and how long
Yes,
it goes
he's
for the closing comments? Shall he go first?
5 minutes, and you're going first, then Manuel. 5 minutes for you, 5 minutes for Manuel. He will have to come at 15:50. 10
Wouldn't
minutes
be better
for the
if I maintain some flexibility and he goes as soon as he's available, and I can interrupt mine. I don't know.
No, according to the protocol, he has to be the last one. I specifically checked.
Okay. Okay, so we have a specific time.
Yes.
Which is?
For you, 15:50. For Manuel, 15:55.
Okay, 15:50. Fine.
And I think we should have everybody back. So I will now, as promised, recreate rooms. I will create absolutely randomly how many people we have. 12 rooms, so you have like 4 or 5 people in a room, and feel free to socialize, and then back to the plenary exactly in 10 minutes, 15:37 in Geneva. So I'm recreating the rooms. Can you see the rooms and join? Or did I do something? Okay, seems working.
No, you did okay.
If you want.
Hi, Kate. You know, I went to yesterday's call by mistake. Hello? Hello, hello.
Hi, Antone.
Anna, is there some technical issue? We are having some intermittent internet, or we are not hearing you, or we have stopped
We are
for a
on a
while.
break. It's a 10 minutes
Oh.
break.
Okay.
I also created breakout rooms, and you should be automatically going if you want to talk to other people. But if you want to be alone and take your tea or do something, then that's
I don't
the time.
want to talk to people.
we just came out of a breakout room after 45 minutes, huh?
Yes. Yes. So the walk is over now. 10 minutes break, and then we go all back to plenary in 6 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Alex, I'm sure you want to talk to people. I don't
I
know
want to
you
talk to
well.
people, but I'm fed up of talking to people on the screen.
I know.
I'm tired of it. It's really tiring.
I know. So you want the dancing to resume for next year, yeah?
Absolutely. But you know, I in my trainings, on my remote trainings, I do dancing behind the screen. People just put their video, they stand up and they dance in front of their screen. We do that.
Okay, that's possible.
Yeah,
better,
it is.
Better in person on the dance floor, though, don't you think?
So much better. So much better.
Exactly. Can't really be replaced.
Can't beat it. Fingers crossed. It will resume.
Hello.
Hi, Stefano.
How's it going? How many people we have in this group? 18.
It's not a group, Stefano. It's a plenary with people who didn't want to go to groups and talk to anybody.
People who are just
I got
taking a
lost
break.
in the telematic corridor.
Oh dear. I think we're all nearly zoomed out.
Yeah, so actually, Stefano, you should have been in the room 8, and there is only one person who is lonely, want to talk to them.
No.
Yes,
No, there was nobody. I tried to say hello, and nobody.
Oh.
Yes, just me, Stefano, there. Yes.
I guess nobody wanted to talk in that group.
No. Don't say that.
Stefano, I can send you to another group if you want.
No, it's okay. It's okay. No, I wanted to compliment Erin on her very elegant, very high elegance in the presentation yesterday, or in a sharing.
Erin or Alex?
Erin.
Oh, right. She was day 1, no?
Yeah. And yesterday as well, no? Did I see her yesterday? Anyway, everything was conducted, I think, extremely efficiently and very well, and very effectively as well.
Okay, I'm going to go and join a room now. I'll see you in there. 5 minutes now, Anna?
Actually 3.5.
Okay. Actually, it says 55.
We went like 2 minutes earlier,
All right.
and we are going back 2 minutes earlier.
Okay. You might have to close the rooms because I think it says
I will close.
55.
I will close.
Okay.
All right. People are coming from the breakout room.
Yes, and I think everybody is now here.
Okay, so participation level, oh my goodness, 68. Where are all the 30%? Well, anyway, so now it's time for each group. No, you wanted to do this exercise.
Before that.
Go ahead, yeah.
Before that, just so that you doubt, and I hope that your break was very good, and I hope that you had nice conversation, or if you didn't want to have conversation, has a cup of tea or coffee. So welcome back. You can see the photograph which we have taken on the first day, and in tradition of previous co-chairs, we want to ask you to spot one duplication on this photo. There is one person who actually presented 2 times. So if you could quickly look and put his or her name in the chat. And I think Stephen Williams didn't like his picture. I'm really sorry to hear that, Stephen. We might want to take another one. So anyone can spot who was presented 2 times, and you have 30 seconds. Maybe that was a very difficult question to ask. Maybe I should have asked, do you see yourself on the picture instead?
That's
and we would
really
have more
hard.
answers.
Sorry, Anna, you're saying who presented twice, or who,
Yes.
or who is there twice?
Who is there twice? Who is there twice? And I see Judith actually saw that it was Inchi Jean-Jacques who was duplicated twice. I will show it to you. It's on the in the middle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th, 4th and 5th rows. Excellent. So we managed to answer this question, and not as difficult question. I guess we now go to the presentation of your group work. I hope you enjoyed it very much. And would group number 1 be able to start and present the summary of discussion in about 4 minutes?
Yes.
Excellent.
Okay, so share my screen. Okay, so we had a very good discussion with our team. I'm just going to present quite quickly. So one of the things that we've done, Anna, is we've just combined day 2 and 3 in the same slides, and you'll see why. So based on the guidance we received before going into the groups, we were to prioritize 1 or 2 solutions. I think for a group, we managed to prioritize at least 1 solution for each challenge, and we've color-coded them. So the other solutions we felt what we've done basically is identified the first key solution that we would need to sort of address, and assume that the other ones would somehow fall in place once the first one has been put in place. So for this, we said the priority solution would be conduct a landscape analysis of GNC priority countries that have existing M&E frameworks and nutrient strategies and policies for proper NIS systems. And then the other 3 that are in green would be addressed once we have this landscape analysis in place. The indicators still remain the same, and the task or the responsible lead would be the NIS working group, the GNC Technical Alliance NIS working group. And that applies to all the three challenges and solutions. Then secondly, the priority solution here is engagement of local partners in having a bigger role on generation of data. And we felt once we have sort of figured that out, the other ones would easily fall in place. And then finally, for data sensitivity, we felt that creating open source data platforms and to create an enabling environment between partners would be the priority solution, and that the rest will also fall in place once we have those systems in place. That's it from our side.
Thank you very much, Hassan. And additional thank you to you and your group for having key monitoring indicators. I think it's the only group that actually managed to do that. So thank you very much and well done. We missed seeing your video, especially Alex. But thank you for being with us. Okay, and I see that you justified the continuation of the GNC NIS working group, GNCTA Global Thematic Working Group on NIS, so well done. Second group is on preparedness, and I see the group already eager to start presenting.
Thanks. Thanks, Anna. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. So our group also had a good 3 nice days. We had a very useful conversation on the challenges, and also we came up with some solutions, and we tried to be as specific as possible. So as you can see on the screen, we
and
are,
sorry to
yes.
interrupt. Can you put a slide show to make it bigger?
And I thought it might be difficult for me to read, so.
Oh no, just this the button on the bottom right to make it bigger.
Let me just.
Unless you have somewhere your notes.
Okay, like this.
Yes.
Is it okay? Okay, nice. So we merged the 2 challenges because the solutions were proposed apply to the 2 challenges. The first challenge has to do more with the capacity of the actors and primarily the government. And the second one is more about the clarity on the process, how it should be done, how preparedness should process-wise should be done at the country level. So to address these solutions, challenges, we came up with 2 sets of solutions, but under each one, we do have some specific solutions. So the first one is assessing the current capacity and building on the existing one. So the recommendation is not to start from scratch, but build on the existing one. So that would involve mapping the emergency response preparedness capacity of countries. And also we need to seriously look at the differences in countries. There are countries differ in their contexts. So as much as possible, whatever we do on ERP should be context specific and tailored to context. And also we do as much as possible prioritization using available indicators and tools. And another activity under this category is updating the GNC guideline, ERP guidance, to reflect the new Interagency Standing Committee ERP guidance. The new guidance has been updated recently, but is awaiting final publication. So it was recommended that we need to update our guideline, the GNC guideline accordingly. Third activity, develop tools and platforms that facilitate the ERP process. That may be an online form or any other tool that can help countries do a better emergency response preparedness planning. So for the first solution, the responsible entities within GNC are the GNC city as a primary lead, but also realizing the fact that the countries which we are looking at are not only countries in current humanitarian emergencies. There are countries more at risk of emergency, so that requires collaboration with the UNICEF cluster lead agency. And also we don't want to do the emergency response preparedness as the coordination only activity. Instead, it should combine both the NI technical as well as the coordination elements. So the second, I move to the second one. So roll out the emergency preparedness platform by the GNCT. This is the revision of the training package, which is also related to the guideline, and delivering the training to the national coordination teams and also partners. And it was emphasized that there is a need for continuous follow-up and support because ERP is a continuous process, it's a cyclic process, so there has to be some follow-up mechanism and also mentoring based on identified need. The third challenge This is more of lack of the challenge on lack of flexible programming and funding strategies from both development and humanitarian sectors and donors. There are two suggested solutions for this. One, the partners need to do better in packaging and articulating where nutrition preparedness fits within DRR resilience programming and funding streams. At the moment, it seems that partners are trying hard to mobilize resources to fund preparedness just as a simple nutrition-specific preparedness. Instead, the recommendation from the group is it has to be packaged and articulated in such a way that it is more linked to resilience and DRR. The last point is about partners. Partners need to do more on preparedness, and they have to demonstrate commitment and their capacity, and their responsibility lies with individual partners. So that is all we discussed in our group. If I missed any major point, my colleagues can also contribute. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony, and thank you to the whole group for the most colorful slides and presented the most beautifully. And just to note that the presentation took 6.5 minutes, so I hope that next presenters can actually, no problem, but I hope next presenters can stick to 4 to 5 minutes. Group number 3, and can you stop sharing the screen, Anthony?
Okay, just a second. Okay, as I forgot last time, my name is Abby Kendall. I am the coordinator of the technical support team of the GNC Technical Alliance, and working on so group 3 is on human resources. Our first challenge is around hiring the right people so that the competencies that are needed for staff working in an NIE are not standardized across the sector, and this is problematic. Our key initiative solutions are first to develop suggested team composition at all levels. This is a recommendation for at different levels what teams could look like, whether it's community, health facility, district level, and working its way up the chain, both for coordination and technical. As well as developing and rolling out standard job descriptions at different levels, various key actors, different sectors. It's as good practice, inspirational, not necessarily, not meant to be prescriptive at all, but just ideas. We think that this should be led by the development of the suggested team composition, and the development of the standard job descriptions could be spearheaded by the GNC Technical Alliance and the GNCCT together as a joint effort through the capacity building working group, and then rolled out through the standard GNC channels. Going on to the next challenge. Sorry, I've got these things in the way, so I can't see. There we go. So the challenge is around having the systems and mechanisms to support staff capacity in NIE, and that we really need to focus more on local actors. That's in local NGOs, community-based organizations, governments, MOH, frontline workers of all sectors. We have to keep in mind that on the front line, we have various different sectors all trying to use the same people, and we need to acknowledge that and make sure that we're figuring out solutions that are realistic. The first initiative solution is looking at developing tools and rolling out an annual capacity mapping in the NIE sector at the country level through the NIE coordination platforms, but making sure that we're really capturing local actors that are across the board working within the sector or potentially interested to work in the sector, because nutrition sensitive is important. But it's really looking at key roles that we identify in steps 1 and 2 that on the last slide, so that we do a mapping that mappings are done at a country level to be able to have like who are the key staff, Have they been trained? Haven't they been trained? Where are the gaps, so that actually, so capacity strengthening can be prioritized. The fourth point is developing and rolling out a minimum package of online basic trainings for key NIE roles in as many languages as possible. Working with governments so that they basically can use these trainings as sort of their toolbox to be able to strengthen capacity. This should outline which topics are essential. Job requirements can be linked to this as well, that people, and so that there's a learning path and plans for in developing this minimum package. There we have to think through how to reach people who do not have connectivity. So looking for solutions for really frontline workers. So it's not just that you have to have internet, you have to have a computer, but that either mobile phones or things that actually can be printed, etc. So that there are ways to actually reach those key actors.
Sorry, Andy, just 1 minute left.
Okay, thank you. So this should be led by the same, in fact, we have the same group for everything. So GNCCT with the GNC Technical Alliance through this joint capacity building working group and roll out through standard channels. I have one point at the bottom of the screen, which is a really important advocacy point. We felt that it is not our role, but that pre-service training, strengthening of pre-service training is critical. And we think that UNICEF is really well placed to do this and is probably doing it in lots of areas, lots of countries, but just emphasizing that this is a big problem that is inhibiting our ability to work within NIE. Okay, our last one is around succession and career paths and looking at how to ensure that one, there are career paths so that people can progress through and keep motivation, but then also looking at how we can have a pool of people to draw from when people are moving to new positions. So we want to develop and roll out guidance on this succession and career path planning. There's a big component of mentoring that we think is important, and it's done by the same group. And there we go. I hope that was okay. I think it went over, but thank you.
Thank you, Andy. 6 minutes. I would ask the further people to stick to 4 to 5 minutes. Let's see if we manage to do that.
Sorry.
Group number 4 on communication and advocacy.
Hi, everyone. So I'll be quick. And thanks, Andy, for the note for advocacy. So well noted. Now, are we develop the new strategy? So,
Yelena, can you make it bigger?
Oh, yes,
slide
sure.
mode.
Sorry. Okay. So quick on the first challenge. The first challenge was basically on the lack of capacities, and the key initiative we were discussing a little bit was based on offering targeted advocacy support. So some countries, maybe it could be toolkits, trainings, human resources support, maybe mentoring programs. So we were discussing different kinds of support that could be offered. And then we were also talking about templates or guidance to get the information we need for advocacy. So maybe that's a kind of support. And we were discussing also how can we connect with other platforms beyond the GNC, kind of intercluster, the SAN, humanitarian platforms, looking into those. Who should be leading on that? We thought it should be the newly formed Advocacy and Communications Working Group, but we agree that kind of these additional responsibilities for this working group would require full-time support from the GNC. Not sure. They were mentioning something like the GTAN. It's not sure which is in the GNC coordination team, the SAC. That's up to you to decide, but that was the idea. The second challenge was on lack of processes here. And we weren't very sure. We had a discussion how actually advocacy works at country level. We acknowledge that there are different models at different countries and the different needs. So the idea was maybe looking at best practices and learn from what is there and see how can this be strengthened, or kind of revisit responsibilities at the moment and see what are the barriers and how can be this addressed. Yeah. And kind of also looking, we were discussing, so we create like an advocacy working group. In some countries there is, in some countries it's not. So we work through the SAN, but we are aware of different mandates. So a little bit revisit what is there now and how can be strengthened. Who should be doing that? Again, we thought the Advocacy and Comms Working Group would take the responsibility, but again, with some kind of support from the GNC. And the third one was about the updating of the strategy. Yeah, we agree on that, but we said the kind of maybe the focus is not so much on the updating the strategy, that could be quick. It's more on the implementation, having like annual plans and implementing those plans. Who should be doing? Again, same group, same suspects, and that's it from me. Thank you
very much, Helena. 4 minutes. Congratulations. And the group number 5 on programming approaches.
Yes. Hi there, it's me. Oh, can you see? Oh,
we did see before. Yes.
And current start. Great. So our group looked at programming responses, and in relation to coverage challenges, we looked at the possibility of developing a new or more efficient tool for measuring coverage beyond just looking at GAM and SAM rates, and also including the 0 to 6 month age group. We also looked at examining ways to expand access and scale up of evidence-based and innovative nutrition actions through community systems, building on things like the simplified approaches, family MUAC, and ICCM+, and really focusing on community-based mechanisms and models. In relation to contextualization challenges, we looked at developing global level guidance to inform the contextualized design of programs at country level, and for ministries of health to use to contextualize programming. So looking at and building on what the work of the Wasting GTWG is already doing, as well as the GNC Technical Alliance knowledge management work. Then we also looked at developing program guidance for nutrition in other age groups and demographics beyond the 6 to 59 months age group, and including developing emergency thresholds for these other age groups and demographics and indicators for them. And yes, in terms of mainstreaming challenges, we thought to develop an analysis framework on the barriers that other sectors or systems face in integrating nutrition in their sectors, and accompanying this, developing a mapping tool of the multi-sectoral determinants of malnutrition, associated risks and stakeholders in each context and country. And then lastly, we thought to develop an agreed methodology on conducting cost effectiveness and efficiency analysis to enable country level comparisons. And this we thought to build on, sorry, I duplicate there, build on the GNCTA wasting subgroup work that's looking at costing and expand to other nutrition interventions. So those are ours. I hope I met the time criteria.
Thank you very much. Just 3 minutes, very clear and prioritized. Thank you, Natalie. And with this, I'll hand over to Nicolas for the group on knowledge management.
That's me. Sorry.
Yes, but Nicolas as my co-chair, and then he will ask you, I guess.
Yes, sorry, I was on. Yes, so now I invite the group on the knowledge management to present the findings of the group work.
Super. Okay. Hi, this is Sarah O'Flynn again.
And you have 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Geez. All right. So we focused in on 4 solutions for the work plan. The first challenge that we identified was on this common location for the research gaps and needs. And our solution was to prioritize establishing a common repository to consolidate the research gaps as well as the ongoing projects across NIE, really leveraging what's already being done and what's already been kind of developed by the various GTWGs. We have some ideas under each of these because we didn't want to lose some of those details, but I won't read through them given my 3 minutes. And we did see this as a responsibility of the GNCTA with very strong engagement with the GTWGs, particularly around updating ongoing projects. to just make sure that we're not all duplicating and we're finding opportunities to synergize and work with each other effectively. The second challenge was around the scalability of research and capacity to conduct research as well. So we recognize that there was a lot of opportunity to really focus in on national level research generation and sharing and capacity strengthening. So thought that one avenue to do so was to prioritize something exciting, that being national NIE research days at the cluster or the sector level, to include all of these bullets here as suggested items to discuss and to share. The underlying objective of this really to be building relationships, sharing information, and building capacity. So a bunch of ideas there. The second recommendation we had was to include research skills in the GNC capacity development strategy as one of the learning modules, for instance, with the leads there on the right. And then the third challenge was really around uptake. How do we support better dissemination, uptake of learning products and overall learning? And we really focused in on a knowledge management learning research strategy as part of the GNC. Currently, it's kind of included in various aspects, but not set out on its own. We thought there was enough around here to really have that stand separately. We have some ideas again around really focusing in on ways of working. How can we leverage the GTWGs and help desks? How can we continue or effectively gather that information? How do we build our own capacity of partners, for instance, and cluster coordinators, IMOs? That would be an important aspect. And some ideas around dissemination, conducting surveys of practitioners on how they would like to learn or receive learning, as well as be part of learning and dissemination. So I'll just stop there, and the details are all available.
Thank you very much, Sarah. You're really ahead of schedule, so thank you for that. And now I will invite Group 8 on cross-cutting issues, gender, disabilities, localization, and others to present.
Yeah, that will be me, Nicola.
Fantastic.
And I'll time myself on my phone.
Don't worry.
So make sure. And just also mentioning that Ben and I had to quickly finalize on a WhatsApp call during the break for Challenge 2. So my apologies to the rest of our group if we took some liberties, but it was just some fine tuning. So hopefully there's nothing too controversial there. So really tough for us to come up with 2 solutions only for each challenges, but we did it. For the first one on poor knowledge management, one of the key initiative solutions is first, as we mentioned on day one, the difficulties of defining what are the core and priority CCIs for the GNCs. And so it's really important to start by doing that, but being very careful at biases there. And so we'll have to use a method that prevents that. And that would allow us to develop a common approach to address CCIs. So we came up with key monitoring indicators because we didn't do it yesterday, but we realized we're pretty much the only one who did it. So, I mean, the indicators for that are quite easy. The fact that the framework and the priorities are developed and set. And we thought that that would be the role of the GNCTA with the support of the working groups as well. And then secondly, as a solutions is then mapping and collating the most up-to-date and best guidances that are relevant for nutrition. So knowing what's out there. And once we have that and we know what are the gaps, developing simple, practical, not overly technical and language appropriate tools that include a variety of approach. And we really want them to be inclusive of a variety of ability. And so indicators for that are the fact that the guidance and the tools are achieved and that there is a common cross-cutting issues toolkit that are developed. And for that, again, the GNC TA would be leading on that. Next slide, Ben. The second challenge that we had was on the lack of accountability. Back challenge. Then back one slide. Yeah. So on the lack of accountability, I mean, we kept the third one because I'll explain why. The first thing that is needed is that we need to identify designated focal person at the GNCs and the national cluster for the priority CCIs, but we need to ensure that a diverse range of these groups are represented. And that links to the point 3, but that's for everything. We have to be careful. I was making the joke of, ensuring that it's not all done by middle-aged white women, because that's a nutrition issue, but that if we are representing other groups and vulnerable groups, that we ensure we learn how to do it properly and that they are included into the work. And for that, our indicators would be that the percentage of SAC members are represented by certain groups, and also that a percentage of GNC partners are from defined CCI's target group. And then that would be the role of the GNC. And then the second point would be advocating for all partners to include CCIs into their charters, their core commitment, including the UNICEF core commitments. And in this case, UNICEF would have a role of advocacy more than anything. But for example, for the core commitment of UNICEF, that would be UNICEF responsibility, but the GNC would have to advocate for that. And then finally, for challenge 3, on basically the capacity, and the difference in standard and capacity. Again, 2 key priorities here. 1, mapping the capacities and the skills that exist to implement them. So the fact that the capacity mapping has been achieved and that there are countries implementing a capacity strengthening plan would be the indicators, and that would be the responsibility of the GWTGs and the TSTs. And then the second solutions would be then after that, developing appropriate capacity strengthening approaches that includes mentoring schemes, e-learning module, and making technical support available. And for that, obviously, the number, but more importantly, the percentage of people trained and mentored, as well as the fact that the CCIs are adequately reflected in the HNO and HRPs, but also in the project sheets. And that would be more actually the role of the TST help desk. And that's it. I'm over time, I know.
No, just 5 minutes.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, right on time. Thank you very much, Alexandra. And now invite the presenter of the group 9 on the ways of working, internal partnership and collaboration.
Right. Tamsin Walters, I'm a consultant with ENN and currently the co-chair of the Global Thematic Working Group on Wasting. So our group, we selected as our key initiative the focus on affected populations. And we wanted to, the activity we were talking about is reviewing the flow of information, especially thinking about the viewpoints, how we get the viewpoints of affected population into the early warning, the planning and design, as well as feedback. So what we thought was that the initiative for this would be initially is to map what systems are already in use by GNC partners, because we know a lot of partners have accountability to affected population mechanisms, and then look at what the best practices are, what works well, and then think about designing a standardized system for capturing beneficiary views and feedback and population engagement. So for this, we thought it would probably be, because it could be quite a in-depth exercise, or at least a mapping, and then possibly some mini evaluation to really get the views of the affected population as well as the partners themselves. So it might be something that we'd put a consultant to do, supported by the GNC CT. So the indicators would be mapping is completed and the guidance on the standardized system is available. Next slide, please. The second one, this challenge was about engagement in NIE implementation, getting more active engagement of local NGOs and CBOs in the mechanisms, in the cluster mechanisms, but also in actively coordinating, as well as being very active on the ground in leading some responses. So again, we put this with the GNCCT and also quite an emphasis on the country coordination, the country sector teams. So yeah, and we linked this very much with the localization guidance. We talked a bit about how that was under review, the latest interagency localization guidance, but how to get that really involved in the cluster. So using that guidance to inform us. So the indicators for this would be having a review of the localization guidance completed to see what it means and how the cluster and especially the sector teams on the ground and clusters in countries could adopt the recommendations from there. And then perhaps monitoring the number of local NGOs or CBOs engaged in country level responses. And we had a bit of discussion here about what we meant by engaged, and we thought that's something that needs to be defined a bit better going forward. So what do we mean by engaged in terms of are those groups getting the funding to drive things forward? Are they leading? What level of engagement we look at would need further definition. Next slide. The third one was, our third initiative was about mapping the major NIE networks and structures and identifying how we can improve those. Our issue here was there was a lot of confusion among people about what all these different groups are doing in NIE and how it all fits together within the GNC structure and beyond, where there's other groups as well. And related to that was like revisiting the structure and the standard operational procedures for alignment with strategy. So this falls, we think, with the GNC Technical Alliance more than anyone, and the GNC CT as well, and the SAG. So the indicators here, we were quite keen on having a nice infographic of the NIE networks and structures developed to really see how everything sits together. And this could be something that was web-based and would need constant updating, no doubt, every 6 months or something, because of the way things move and change so much. And then we talked a lot about how also, apart from mapping it out, it also really needs to be disseminated so that people have access to it and people know how it all sits together. So we thought that could be part of the knowledge management plan, would be dissemination. And there may be ways we could measure how many dissemination channels it was sent out through so that people become aware of it. And then the other points are about updating the GNC SOPs, and the Technical Alliance strategic intent should also be updated.
Very well done. 5 minutes. And now I will invite the presenter of Group 10 on the external engagement, and that is me. So I will count on the support of my colleagues, the co-chair Linda, to share a screen. I don't know, I cannot see the screen. All right. So we've identified 3, in fact, key initiatives. And I just want, before to start, I just want to say that this group work, oh, I can't see anything. But this group work was composed by colleagues from very different institutions, from the Sun, from UN Nutrition, from Untitled, the GNC, and other institutions. And maybe one of the strong feeling that we had is that, we have really appreciated and enjoyed the conversation. And one of maybe an overarching initiative would be to continue having this discussion on a regular basis, so creating this space. Because we are all heading to the same direction. The fact is, maybe we are using a different language, different terminology to speak about the same thing. And we would really, this very strong feeling of a need to really continue engaging on a regular basis and create that space. And in fact, the initiative and the potential solution that I've identified, in fact, speak to the 3 main challenges that we had identified. And the first one will be to, it's a kind of low-hanging fruit. It's to really continue the implementation of what is already being done in terms of improving the intersectoral collaboration at both global level, but also at national level. So we are speaking to the work that is largely led by the cluster on the intersectoral platform, and as well as the newly established intersectoral working group at the GNC level. I don't know what's happening with the presentation, but I don't see anything on my screen. Do you see the slide?
No, we don't. It's white.
It's a white slide.
Yeah.
My computer is freezing.
All right, so I tried to do that. Yeah, so that was really the first initiative. So to really continue pushing on the what has been done, not reinventing the wheel, but we believe that the direction already taken by the GNC makes a lot of sense, and to reinforce the work that it is done at the cluster level among the different clusters needs to be continued. And then we look at the bigger picture in terms of external collaboration, and we came with this idea of creating that space to engage more systematically with other coordination platforms like the Sun, like UN Nutrition in different countries, to really establish first, to reinforce this recognition that nutrition is a specific issue, a complex one, a multidisciplinary one, but is a specific issue that needs a deliberated effort and deliberated resources to be addressed. And we were thinking about, to create this space, about bringing all these key stakeholders together and developing a joint statement on, and the purpose of that would be to agree on the language and on common objective to make sure that nutrition is recognized at the level it should be recognized. And the third initiative that we had identified is to better document the work that we do in terms of multi-sectoral programming. And because there are some good examples of successes, and but we are not really good at we have not, maybe we could do better at documenting the work that we do in that space, and that could also show to the donors that multi-sectoral programming works, but requires also funding that comes with it, and that will be our third initiative, to mobilize multi-sectoral funding to support multi-sectoral programming. So that are the three main solutions and initiatives developed by this working group. Over. And sorry for the technical issue with the presentation. So with that, I will hand over to Anna for the closure of this annual meeting. Over to you, Anna.
Thank you very much, Nicolas, and thank you very much to all the groups for all your fantastic work. I just want to highlight before we move further how much we appreciate all the work that went into it, and all the discussions which you had in the group, which I'm sure were very rich, and we only get a little glimpse on all the discussions at the plenary. And special thanks to 77 participants who are still with us. We should be able to finish a little bit earlier. So let's move on. In terms of the next steps, now that you have presented us the key initiatives that you think needs to happen in each of the thematic areas, we, as you remember, missed the financing group number 7. So we will, this month, we will discuss with the SAG financing. The same way like you went through challenges, solution, and the role of the GNC, we will be doing it through the financing. So we have the whole group of NIE domains and everything finalized. So by the end of it, we should have a pretty clear picture of the key challenges and key solutions. Now in July, we will finalize the report from this meeting, and we will share the report with all of you. Based on the report and the information from all the work which we have done at the meeting and before the meeting, we will further discuss with the SAC and maybe even further prioritize solution identified at the meeting. Hopefully we will be able to keep all of them, but we will look what is realistically possible to do within 4 years and what are our priorities. So we will basically further work on it. We will develop the key indicators, so something that we can all look at a holistic level and to see how all of it will address key challenges that we have in the sector. Now, based on this, we will be drafting in parallel 2022-25 Nutrition and Emergency Roadmap and also GNC strategy. It says roadmap, but it's actually strategy. We will be drafting them in parallel, so we would have what is the roadmap for the sector and also what is the role of the GNC and different working groups, different structures that we have in delivering this within the next 4 years. We hope to have this launched by October. We will obviously have a consultation with you before, somewhere around September, on the draft of the strategy, and October is our target date to finalize the strategy. In parallel, over summer, we will also be working in revision of the GNC governance and standard operating procedure. We're planning that in September, we would have something to share with you, the proposed structure which we should have if we need to have any modifications to how we operate now, so that we can fully support implementation of the strategy for the next 4 years. So the idea is that we would have something with the SAC to propose to you in September, and we will be discussing this in September. So there will be probably about 1 hour meeting where we invite all of you, all GNC partners, all coordination teams, and where we will present our structure, which will support our strategy, and then we discuss if we need to modify something. And based on your feedback, we will finalize SOP. So by the launch of everything in October, we should have a full package of our plans at strategic level for the next 4 years. And we will be also working on the development of the 2022 GNC Annual Work Plan. So once we have a strategy in November, we should be able to have a work plan, costed work plan for the next year, not for the GNCCT, not for GNCTA, but for the whole GNC. So we hope that there will be a lot of leadership among all of you, as you showed during this meeting, on different components of the strategy. I saw there several working groups were already tasked with implementation of the strategy, and we will look what else needs to be done, having in mind our new standard operating procedures and our governance. So that's the next step, and then that should allow us, while we are finalizing implementing the all strategies this year, already have a plan, very detailed plan for the next year. Now with this, I would like to actually thank a lot of people for this meeting. I tried to write the full list. I hope I didn't miss anybody, but please do chat if I meet anybody. Also, I might not be able to read the chat. So first of all, sincere thanks to the Global Nutrition Cluster Strategic Advisory Group for everything that they've done to make this meeting and development of the GNC strategy possible. You don't know, but it was a lot of work, a lot of meetings, a lot of revisions. At some point, we were even meeting twice a week. And they all work now on co-chairing of this session. So my really, really sincere appreciation for all the work that our strategic advisory group have done. Thank you. I would also like to thank the co-chairs of the GNC meeting, which is largely GNC Strategic Advisory Group members, which is like extra effort, and thank you very much for that. I would also like to thank our 20 beautiful and very efficient co-chairs for our group work. As you see, we have managed just with 3 hours of group work, we managed to achieve significant discussions and agreements on the key topics and key challenges. So thank you very much for their engagement, for all your engagement in facilitating this work. And thank you for all the group work participants as well to contributing and supporting the co-chairs. I would also like to thank the GNC coordination team, who was also behind all of it and put a lot of hours in preparation of this meeting and the strategy, not only what you see, but behind this scene, all the technical work that we have done. So the whole coordination team has really made a lot of effort to make this meeting a success. Thank you very much. I would also thank organizers of the 11 satellite events. Despite that we are having official closing today, don't forget that the next week we will have 11 different satellite events. We hope you will join all of them, but you can select those satellite events that are most relevant to you. It's Tuesday events this Thursday, the same time that we have annual meeting, and we will tackle a lot of discussions that started here, but will be continuing further. For example, capacity building, intersectoral collaboration, GNC, technical alliance, emergency response and preparedness, and so on. So please do attend. Thank you also to everyone who participated in our 2 GNC strategy surveys, 41% for the first and 207 for the second one. Again, that's the largest number we ever had. So thank you very much for all the commitment that you had in replying to surveys. It did help us to prepare this meeting and to get your perspectives on the different aspects of GNC work. Thank you also to resource partners funding the implementation of the GNC strategy. We do hope that we will have also successful partnerships in the next 4 years for implementation of our new strategy. Big thanks to the GNC Technical Alliance and to the global thematic working groups for their preparation and work on the technical part of this meeting, and also for organizing the relevant satellite events next week. I'm almost done with my thanks. So big thanks to the GNC working group on GNC working groups on advocacy, capacity development, and intersectoral collaboration, which are in addition to the GNC Technical Alliance global thematic working groups worked so hard on preparation of this meeting. Thank you very much to all the speakers who provided opening remarks and those who will provide our closing remarks and bring in their perspectives to the collective. And the last and my most sincere and most appreciative thanks to all the participants of this meeting, especially the 72 who are still with us, but thanks to all of participants who contributed during these discussions. Especially thank you for those people from countries who made it possible to join this meeting, not only at national level, at subnational level, our government counterparts, our local representatives, and so on. So thank you very much. And with that, before closing remarks—
Just to interrupt you, Anna, I just would like us to do a kind of round of applause for you, Anna, because you did all the heavy work for the previous weeks, and I think all the SAG members have watched your commitment, your dedication, the time you spent, the energy you had in preparing this event, and we know that that was a very busy time, and the work that you do is really amazing, and I think that the success of this meeting is first and foremost also your success. So I just want to really acknowledge that and commend the work that you did for making this event the success it is. Thank you very much, Anna.
Thank you, Nicolas, and thank you, everybody. And lots to all of you. Okay, so just to see how well we've done, our last evaluation poll. This poll will evaluate day 3, but also overall meeting. So it would have one question specifically for the meeting. I'm launching the polling, and I will give you 1 minute, 1.5, to rate today's participation and to your impression of the organization of this meeting. We have 37 votes, so if we can I'll just give you some more time to finish it. Okay, so 83% voted, 81%. And your last chance to submit your vote, 83%. 84%, and just a second. So I'm ending the polling, and I am sharing the results with you. It seems that actually third day was a little bit more appreciated than usually. We have more 5-star ratings than 4 before. So thank you very much. I guess we finally got it how to do the meetings. Hopefully next year we will be doing even better. Now, the second question is which topics were most useful? Again, group work is the leading most useful and interesting topic. Plenary presentations and feedback seems to be also very interesting. So I would judge we've done quite a good job on this, but that's just my personal opinion. And the last question, what is your general rating of all the 3 days? We have 14% who said it's 3 stars, 46% 4 stars, and 39% 5 stars. So thank you very much for these results, and I do hope we will be able to do it even better next time. Now, with this, I would like to hand over to Stefano for his final remark, which will be followed by remarks from Manuel, who should be joining us shortly. We are a little bit ahead of time, so I hope that he will be able to join us in the next few minutes.
Thank you very much, Anna. And again, I also feel that the massive amount of work that you and the rest of the team and all the other colleagues that you mentioned earlier on, I think has been extremely fruitful. And this is the first GNC global meeting conducted online, but I think the quality of the contributions and comments received indicate that the format adopted is meeting the expectations of most participants. And so I think we can only do better, and but also very much appreciated the current results. Now, if I also wanted to mention that I've been absent from the close work of the planning of this meeting and other things because I've been on leave for 4 months for family reasons. But it's good to be back, and it's good also to see so much commitment and enthusiasm towards the issues that we discussed. Now, I wanted to mention also that the cluster approach has been in continuous evolution since 2005. And I've been involved on and off since 2006. But I feel that the pace of change is accelerating, and the changes needed to remain relevant and fit for purpose are becoming more radical. The GNC has been embracing and often leading the mainstreaming of many priorities, including accountability to affected populations, humanitarian development nexus, localization, and many cross-cutting issues like GBV, disability, and the utilization of cash and voucher assistance. Many of the changes that we're discussing right now had been already identified as priorities a few years ago, but the COVID pandemic has drastically exacerbated some of the pre-existing multidimensional vulnerabilities in many countries, and in some instances also setting back long-standing efforts to reduce malnutrition. Once again, over the last year and a half, the GNC has led the way in rapidly and effectively shifting its support from primarily officially activated clusters to extending the support to any country level sectoral or cluster coordination mechanism, which may benefit from the extensive technical expertise, tools, and guidance available in the GNC collective. And in 2020, the nutrition sector coordination was directly supported by the GNC in 63 countries. And an unprecedented number of webinars, bilateral or group calls, capacity building initiatives were conducted. Our revamped website was accessed by partners from more than 100 countries. And also this, the new website also allows at the touch of a button real-time monitoring of the support provided. And this has been greatly appreciated by our partners and also by our donors. Now, also the GNC Technical Alliance, with the much stronger support and leadership from the UNICEF program division, has become a one-stop solution for nutrition emergency technical queries, and has already answered hundreds of support requests. And so a lot of changes have taken place in the last year and a half. The crisis, the COVID crisis, has been effectively turned into also opportunities for strengthening the support provision. And these changes were only made possible by also the strengthening of intra-cluster and inter-cluster and external collaborations. There has been a much stronger support of the cluster approach of the GNC by UNICEF program division and other sections of UNICEF. A much closer collaboration with the WASH, health and food security clusters, a much closer collaboration with the SUN movement, and closer collaboration with our donors. And I'm sure that together we can capitalize on lessons learned during the ongoing COVID crisis and improve our flexibility, efficiency, and effectiveness in the coming years. Now, with your help and support, we will ensure that that the officially activated nutrition clusters provide quality, timely, and effective coordination of humanitarian responses, but also we will maximize our contribution to strengthening the capacity of all countries for the prevention and care of malnutrition in all its forms prior to, during, and after a crisis. And I think these are as these principles, these concepts, I think are being reflected in the new strategy. And I very much look forward to a closer collaboration with all of you to implement the vision which has been shaped and which hopefully will remain relevant and effective for a long time to come. So thank you very much. And I hope that the attendance to the additional side events next week will be as high as this for this week. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. And with this, I would like to give a word for final remarks to Manuel Fontana, our Emergency Director for UNICEF.
Thanks, Anna. Thanks, colleagues. Great. I was about to say great to see you, but we just see some of you and some, and so it's always great to be in a cluster discussion, but it would be great when we can sit around the same table and have that discussion together. So really looking forward to that moment, and I'm sure it's going to happen at some point. But it's great that I understand you also had a lot of participation, and in a way it's interesting because the virtual way of doing those meetings has a downside, which is we don't have those moments where we can go around the coffee break and have a chat, which I think is really helpful at times. The advantage is that we can have more colleagues joining us because it's easier and it's also cheaper, obviously, which is good also because we need to put the money where it matters, which is in responding to crisis. So anyway, so I'm happy to be with you. I understand, and I'm sorry I couldn't be with you during the whole GNC meeting this time, but I know there's been some good progress, I understand, and I will read a lot about it, in particular around the roadmap, so and the strategy. So it's great, and thanks for that commitment and that engagement. It's been quite of a year, and you know, unfortunately, I was just at the Grand Bargain meeting yesterday and a couple of other things like that, and or the day before, but it was already. And you know, the constant increase of humanitarian needs is a challenge for all of us, and actually a lot around nutrition, a lot around food insecurity. I mean, I'm sure you've all followed the Ethiopian discussions and you know what's happening in some other places as well. And nutrition is very much at the center of a lot of that. So nutrition, this is you, and this is all of us together, basically. Humanitarian needs have increased. Humanitarian funding has not increased in the same level. That's for sure. Hence the importance for us to be a lot more coordinated and together and efficient and effective in the way we're doing our work. So the importance of cluster, I think, is even reinforced by that. Obviously, last year or this year still now, as we speak, we had the COVID-19 pandemic, which has been yet another challenge in many different levels, and you know better than I do. But what I think has been really good in the overall approach that we've taken to the response to the COVID-19 pandemic has been that it actually has been not just about controlling the outbreak, but it has been also about looking at the impact of the outbreak on other issues, including on the nutrition of children in particular and pregnant and lactating women. It is really, it's been quite good that we were able to do that and be very clear from the beginning that a response to public health emergency is not just about controlling an outbreak or controlling the epidemic in shape or form, but it is also about looking at the impact, the consequences. And unfortunately, obviously, the consequences are just going to increase quite a lot, or are going to be felt over the next few years. And I understand we've basically raised from 46 million people in need of nutrition humanitarian assistance in 2019 to 78 million. So in 2020, and I think it's just going to continue increasing. So obviously, again, the need for us to be always more efficient and effective, but to mobilize ourselves all together. And I think that was clearly the case in the response against COVID. All the consequences of COVID as well. And we've done that also by really bringing everybody on board, and I think working a lot with local organizations, frontline organizations, and we can do a lot better on that. I'll just get back to it in a second. So we're certainly confident that the overall nutrition sector will achieve its ambitious aims of strengthening its capacity and the resources to deliver what needs to be, and I think that's what Stefano was also saying, but to quality, rapid, urgent, flexible, agile humanitarian action that is really looking at the most vulnerable. Is really looking at those left behind. So really looking at equity as a very important part of our response. And of course, in particular for us children, but for all of us children, obviously. So just to say that, we certainly support as UNICEF the commitments and the engagement that have been made over the past 3 days that you've all made together, and then all the engagement and the decisions and the way forward that you've chartered. We're certainly with you on that. We certainly support that, and we will definitely be happy to lead in the way forward on this. So we're very much with you. We certainly continue to and commit to ourselves to lead both a nutrition specific but also multi-sectoral responses with nutrition.com. As it's required. This is what we do. We have the advantage in UNICEF, I would say, to be truly multi-sectoral. We're looking at WASH, we're looking at health in some ways, we're looking at nutrition, we're looking obviously at protection, education, other things that have actually a direct interaction with nutrition in general. And so we want to leverage, we want to use that multi-sectoral kind of approach into our nutrition response in general. So this is quite important. And we also, of course, take very seriously our role of provider of last resort, so that we make sure that we are at scale and that we actually meet the needs of those that really need us most. So again, but call us on that. If you feel that we're not keeping up with our CCCs, our core commitments for children, which are very demanding and with very clear and strong benchmarks, please call us on that and just say, look, you guys need to step it up on this and that. This is important to us, and this is actually a service you're also giving to us as a cluster lead agency. And obviously we're going to be, one of the things and one of the points I addressed to the Grand Bargain actually on Tuesday was the fact that we need to make flexible long-term multi-year funding the rule and not the exception. And I think it is too much the exception at the moment. And it is important also because that would allow us and to really make sure we actually bring on board local organizations better, that we can actually help them, that we can provide a lot of our partners with multi-year flexible funding that will allow them to build their capacity to really kind of strengthen their capacity to respond. And it's going to be really important. But of course, we all know that it's not just the money coming from the donor, it's also that UNICEF needs to do that better. And so we're certainly committed to working on that, and we're going to try to help. And this is in the interest of everybody and the interest of a real strong, timely, predictable, and cost-effective response. So anyway, thank you for everybody for joining. I think it was I understand one of the biggest group, as I said. I think this is the advantage of the remote format that we have, is that a lot more people can actually, and it's easier for them to join without having to bother about taking a plane, a visa, a ticket, and all these things which are complicated and costly. So this is great, and we have a lot of partners around, and so we're certainly planning to work with all of you as much as we can. So thank you very much for being there. Thank you very much for pushing us and pushing the overall nutrition sector together. We're going to do our part. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Manuel. And on this note, I would like to close the meeting, and thanks again all of the participants for attending. Have a good day, morning, evening, whatever it is. Bye.
Yeah.
Anna, bye.
Thanks, Anna. Ciao.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, Anna.
Thanks, Anna. Thanks, all the GNC team. Bye.
Thank you, GNC team. Thank you very much, GNC team.